I'm Darren Johnson, principal at Blackview Central. It's great to have everybody here. It's been a long time since we've had kids in our presence and back here in the auditorium. It's great. I actually when we were setting up, I kind of got a little goosebumpy thinking, boy, we're going to have kids back in school soon. I'm excited. I'm glad you're here. Obviously in a different environment, but I'm looking forward to getting started. There's certainly challenges ahead. We'll talk about many of those things tonight and so forth. But my goal here is to get you in and out of this orientation in about 45 minutes. I think we can do that. We'll leave a little time at the end if there's some questions, but the goal here is to kind of just hit some topics and make sure people are feeling comfortable. The goal in any of these forums is to kind of reduce anxiety, get kids understanding that there's a lot of support here and that we're here to help and so forth. Again, we're in a different environment without an open house and without the kids coming in the spring to see the school and meet the teachers. Things are different, but I can assure you after a day or two, 3 days of school, we'll just settle in and it'll be like we were here for a long time. So there's kind of our agenda tonight. Those are just hitting the quick topics, and we will again buzz through this pretty quick. Not all staff are required to be here tonight, but I did see a good group of them here. So real quick, staff members, 7th grade, Mr. Laughlin, social studies, he's in the back. He'll also be coaching some junior high football for us this year. We have Mrs. Scanlon, she teaches reading, 7th grade reading for us. Mrs. Stork, right next to her, she is our language arts teacher in grade 7. Other teachers and staff members in grade 7. Anybody else here? I know Mrs. Gray, she's an 8th grade teacher. She's new, won't teach 7th graders, but she will be teaching 8th graders. So if there's a few 8th graders here, she's in language arts. All right, when you came in, you would have met Tren or Carolyn. They're our office managers. They do a terrific job and can answer any questions that you have by calling, emailing, whatever it is. And of course, kind of open door. You'll meet Mrs. Svoboda in just a few minutes. She'll be up to talk with us about some counseling things, scheduling, and whatnot. So Mrs. Svoboda will be on the agenda here shortly. All right, let's just kind of dive into some of the things that we have. School schedule, of course, we start next Tuesday. That's August 18th. Normal school days, that's Tuesday to Friday, 8:10 to 3:25. Monday late starts. All Mondays in which we're in session start at 9:10 a.m. Okay, school still ends at 3:25 those days. That extra hour delay on Monday morning is for staff development. Teachers work together collaboratively to get some things accomplished that deal with their content area or whatnot, or grade level teams. So it's a good opportunity for teachers to work in collaboration. Of course, school physicals, 7th graders and all new students, which is probably most of you, do need to have a physical before you start school. This year, due to COVID, the NSAA, the state association which works with our athletics, did allow us for our 8th graders to not have to do a physical if they're playing sports. So all of those kids that are returning 8th graders do not have to have a physical this year if you attended our schools a year ago. So that's kind of a nice deal for this hopefully one-time season. All right, iPads. Every student will have an iPad in our district. We are a one-to-one school. This is our 9th year of being a one-to-one district. Hard to believe it's been happening that long. But this is something we've been very proud of. The iPad that you get, of course, take good care of it. It has a nice case on it. You have a kind of a power puck. You have a cord that goes with it. Take care of those things. Of course, if you have your iPad damaged, if it's lost, if it's stolen, there's some fees that go with that. They're printed there. This is kind of a fun deal. In 9 years, going into our 9th year, I guess 8 full seasons of having students having an iPad in their hands, we still have 0 lost iPads, which is incredible at the junior high level. But I think that's a pretty cool deal. So, someday it's going to happen, and somebody's got to be first. So let's keep that streak going of keeping track of your iPads, taking care of your iPads, things like that. Of course, they will get, some minor damage from time to time. It happens, and we'll take care of those things as it occurs. We do have filtering, content filtering on those devices, which means they're protected. It is not something that we take lightly. We it's very important that those devices are filtered for content that may not be appropriate for any person, let alone a 7th and 8th grader. But we are serious about how we use these iPads. We want them to be used for students in the classroom learning, but that filter does a really good job. Just like any filter, it's not perfect, but it is very, very good, and we've had very few issues with it over the years. So if there's ever anything from a parent side where you have questions about the filtering system, want something looked into, of course we will do that. We have great tech support that can help us on that, but the content filtering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, during the duration of the time our students have that iPad is quite important, and so we're pleased to have that filtering system. Along with the iPad, each student has a managed Apple ID. The App Store is not available to our students, so the device that they have, they're not able to go to the App Store and make a bunch of purchases and put games on it. Believe it or not, we allowed that for a long time, and we kind of came to the realization that the distractions that come with that are pretty significant. The other side of that is so many students today have their own devices, whether it's at home, a phone, another iPad, or whatever. We kind of realized that this isn't the platform to allow students to have maybe that App Store capability. So we took away that App Store over a year ago, and it's been a good decision for us. We have just fewer distractions in the classroom. The filter that I talked about earlier, it is automatic. Students do not have to log on to the filter. They used to. Prior to the last refresh, they had to log in. They don't have to log in, so the filter, every time they're connected to it wireless, at home, grandma's house, at school, etc., the filter is on. Of course, we can monitor the iPad. We typically are not monitoring the iPad directly, but there is a monitoring system that's a part of that. So if we ever do need to go in and look at the histories of searches or things that are going on, we can do that. There's a lot of information archived through our management system, but again, that's not something that we get into typically, but in a case-by-case basis, we may have to do that. And of course, as I said earlier, it is a learning device first. We want our kids to be taking care of it for school purposes. So Mrs. Svoboda is going to talk just a little bit about some other topics along the way, and I'll be back shortly.
As he said, I'm Mrs. Svoboda. I'm the school counselor for both 7th and 8th grade. My first topic is about homework. We provide a homework online place for parents to go and look what their kid might have had that day for homework. It's updated daily, usually by lunch. It's pretty accurate, so you can go to pcspringfieldplatteview.org. It's under students and parents. Typically, during guided study hall, our teachers walk students through how to get there, save it, that kind of thing. So they should know, and they should be able to help you find it. But in case you need it, it's also under the parents tab. This is a copy of a schedule. You probably have one in front of you as well. It looks kind of daunting because it has the full year on it. If you just focus on semester 1, it makes things a little bit easier. You should have a bunch of classes, on the way left side, it will tell you whether it's an A-B class, an A class, or a B class. And that's where it's going to get kind of confusing, and we're going to go over the schedule here in just a minute. But if it's an A-B class, that's one you're going to go to almost every day. The other ones will kind of rotate through, and I'll show you what that looks like here in, I think, the next slide. So we are actually headed to a block schedule, just while we're kind of worried about some passing periods and, having less movement in our classrooms and hallways. So we are going to basically have a 4-day rotation. So on schedule 1, that just means we're starting with period 1. You will always have the same core class for period 1. So every other day, you will go to that same period 1 class. Where it gets tricky, so period 2, find your period 2 on your schedule. You will have some kind of A, B class. Some people have PE choir, some might have PE study hall, some of you might have chosen our new class back in time. So you have some options. What this will look like then is on schedule 1, what are we calling it? Schedule 1A. Okay, so schedule 1A, you're going to go to your A day second period class. You won't see that class then again until 4 days later. Does that make sense? So we've kind of split you into 4 quadrants, and you'll just basically repeat that. So Schedule 1 is 1 through 4, A day. Schedule 5A is 5 through 8, your A day classes. And then, we move to the 3rd day in the rotation is back to Schedule 1 because we're headed back to first period, but this time your electives will be that B day. So you go to second period B day that time. And then we follow with Schedule 5 B day. And it's new for all of us, and we're all going to need some reminding. You guys will probably remember it better than our teachers and me, and I'm always going to be running around not knowing where anyone is. So don't panic. We're going to have signs, we're going to have reminders, but just know that you can basically cut it into 4 different days and then you start over. So we've got a lot of kids, if anyone came to visit me and got their schedule ahead of time, I just suggested go with 1 through 4, find your A day classes and just write it out for that day. Then write out your second day, which would be 5 through 8 A day. And if you have questions on that, well, let me know. Another thing about scheduling, I look at these schedules probably 800 times before they get printed. So I miss things. So if you're looking at just your individual schedule and maybe I put you in science 2 times, let me know tonight. So if you see anything weird, or I put you in choir and you can't sing a note and you don't want to be in it, let me know now so I can switch it for you before the first day. Anything else on that? Is that clear-ish?
Oh, very clear.
I'm a note taker, so I would have like different color-coded schedules for like everything. Attendance and tardies, we want you here. We are so excited to be back in school and see faces that we want to see you all the time. As we were just talking, you might not see a teacher but once every 4 days. So if you just start kind of not coming to school, we're going to miss you, we're going to hassle you, we're going to try to get you here. Same goes for our e-learners. If you are an e-learner and you're here, you're expected to still log on, communicate with teachers, do your homework, that kind of thing. So we want you here, but we also want you on time. We've got a lot of stuff to try to figure out this year, and the more we can have you here for that first bell, the better off we can be. I think the next one is about tardies. So we understand things happen, so we give you a couple of free passes. 1, your first 2 tardies are free. Then, once you get to 3 to 5, you're going to have a lunch detention, which means you get to sit in either the office. Sometimes with me, it might not be very fun for you. 6 to 8, we're going to give you an after-school detention. 9 plus gets a little more serious. We've got to bring parents in and say, hey, what's going on? Is there anything we can help with? Is it a transportation issue? We'll obviously have those conversations before then, but that's when we're definitely pulling you in and making a tardy plan. And if we get to 10 plus, we have Saturday school, so you get to spend even more time with us. Our policy update for food and drink, so they're kind of telling us we have to shut the water drinking fountain part of it off. So we want you to have water bottles with you. We want them to be clear water bottles, so like the body of them clear, like to be colored, whatever. And we will still have our little fountains that you can kind of stick your bottle under without touching anything. That just kind of gives us a little bit less grossness. Food and drink in class then. During 2nd and 6th period, which happens around 10 a.m. each day, we're allowing you to have some kind of a snack. We're hoping you choose some kind of healthy option instead of I always bring up a family-sized bag of Cheetos, because I'm pretty sure someone did that my first year when we allowed snacks. So think, pretzels, something small, something that won't make a huge mess, in that 2nd and 6th period only. And then cell phones, we understand that you guys have them. We would love if they stay in your locker for most of the day. There are exceptions, so it says use only with teacher or staff permission. A good example was maybe all of a sudden the storm's coming through, football game's canceled, and we need to let parents know ASAP. Usually because they're like, hey, can I just give my mom a call on my cell phone? We're usually like, yeah, no problem, that kind of thing. Otherwise, they need to be in your backpacks, or locker. We don't want them visible. It's just kind of a huge distraction. And then this is just kind of what happens if we have that problem with the phone. Typically, the first one, we take it for the rest of the day, you can get it back, and then after that, we kind of have to start giving lunch detentions, After the third one, we keep it until that parent's willing to come get it, which sometimes can be days. Parents don't want to always come up and get it. So just know, kids, that could happen. And then iPad policy gaming. With our filter and our lack of buying things on the app, we haven't seen many problems with this, but kids like to find a way. So first violation, obviously the parent's going to know from the teacher. They're just going to say, hey, I caught them on this game during fifth period, and then they lose the iPad until the next morning, which is tricky if you have homework. So second violation, parents notified after school detention, and it just kind of goes from there. Once we get kind of into the 5th through 7th, we might lose that iPad for a chunk of time. So you have to really be, you get that first violation, learn from your mistakes, and we'll have a good year.
She's kind of mean. She's
You're making me
I
fly
can't
like
believe
me.
you do those things. This kind of goes along this slide, and I'll let you guys read it here for a second. This kind of goes along with what Mrs. Svoboda just said about learning from your mistakes. And junior high is such a great time period for growth and maturity. If you think about where your student is going to be as an incoming 7th grader just 24 months from now, they're going to be going into high school. And of course, at high school, grades matter and choices matter and things like that. Junior high is a great place to learn, and it's to grow, to develop, and this slide is really about that. It's about letting your kids make mistakes, letting them fail. There's no safer place for a kid to fail than at school. That doesn't mean we're cheering for failure, but once in a while, failure is the best lesson that can happen. And so, we see it a lot with bailing kids out. And I'm a parent. Now, my kids are actually ready to go to college here this week and next week. I have twins. And, I've been there, where your kid calls you and they're desperate for something because they forgot it, they need it for practice, they need it for school, class, whatever, and you take care of it for them, or you run and get it. So I've been there, but I've also been there where they had to learn the lesson. And the lesson isn't always fun for them because there's a consequence that goes with it. So when you as the parent have to make that decision of how you assist your kid, think about it, because if it's a small thing, it can be a big lesson for the kid. It can be a big lesson for the student. So when they call and they say, I forgot my trumpet at home and I need it for band today, sometimes the answer that you can provide is, sorry, you're going to have to pay the consequence. Maybe it's lunch money and they have to borrow money from a friend, or they have to eat, off their friend's lunch or whatever their friends allow them to do. And so those things are sometimes difficult, but they're good lessons. And so just consider that when kids are calling, because likely in junior high they will call once or twice asking for a favor from mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, and what you decide to do with that can make a difference. Of course, you can always bring their stuff up and help, but if it's a repeated thing, guess what we're ingraining in that is that you will be there to bail them out always, and that's of course not the case. So, parking lot. This, I don't think it'll be a big deal, but every time, we have a new group of parents and students come into our school, we have to think a little bit about parking lot flow and traffic. So, of course, we have new construction out in front of the school once again. It's going to be really nice when it's all done, but we're not done. So, that intersection right now is a touch busy. It will be really busy on the first few days of school when students are coming into our parking lot and they're all buzzing in here at 7:50, 8 o'clock, 8:10, hopefully not 8:15, but they're cruising in. That parking lot, or that intersection will be pretty busy and it'll get backed up. When you enter the school property, you're going to turn from 108th into going directly to Platteview Central. If you're dropping off your student, there's a big circle up there. You just circle around. I sent the map to you. You can just drop off right in front of the school, and there's two options to get out of the parking lot from there. You can take an immediate left or go out in front of the high school. I do have the map on here, if you're a map reader. Of course, it's helpful. But this is 108th Street. I don't know if you can see the mouse over here, 108th Street. And again, you're going to turn in right here, cruise down. There's a stop sign right here at this crosswalk, and here's the circle. Loop that circle if you're dropping off your student, and here's Platteview Central's drop off right there. So It's pretty simple. There is limited, and I mean very, very limited parking in front of Platteview Central. So these parking stalls here are for our staff. These parking stalls with the arrow here are for our staff. These 5 stalls that are numbered here, and again, hopefully you can see my arrow moving there. Those 5 stalls are for guests that are coming into the building. They're not for folks that are stopping to pick up their kids. So if you're getting, school's out at 3:25, and if you arrive at 3:10, head over to the high school parking lot, which is right here. You can get in either way through in front of the high school or off of 108th Street, and you can just park right there, wait. It's not very far for the kids to walk, and you're not taking up one of those guest parking spots. And we would prefer it if you didn't wait in front of the school just in the circle or whatnot, because again, there will be other cars that need to come in there. So it's a pretty simple deal. 1, 2, 3 days of pickup and drop off and pick up. You'll have it down and go from there. But there are stop signs out there. Please kind of obey those. If you ask you to go 10 miles an hour or less in the parking lot. If you've ever driven 10 miles an hour, it's extremely slow. But of course, we're doing that for a reason. So kind of abide by those, and we would appreciate it. Okay, just some reminders about after orientation. Now, there's still a couple of big topics to come, but after orientation, there's 3 sports meetings. Football meeting stays here. We'll meet with the coaches. Volleyball players, front gym, that's when you go out, take a left, and head towards, there'll be nice arrows out in front of the gym that say front gym, and then cross country, and I know I saw Mr. Dossel here earlier. Cross country's in the media center, which is actually in the back of the school, but I'm guessing he will be out front to help guide some folks down that way. So if you're going to the cross country meeting, it's in the media center. And those meetings will be about 15 minutes. We're not going to take up a couple hours of your time. It's just kind of some quick information so you're ready for the sports season. All right, COVID planning. You know, you think about, I've been in education. This is going to be my 25th year. It's a long time if you think about doing something that long. And you think you've done just about everything, and then something like coronavirus shows up. You haven't done anywhere close to everything. So we're doing something different. We are all doing something different, and that is the point of this conversation. You've likely seen, hopefully read through the district reopening plan by Mr. Richards. And of course, that's by our Board of Education as well. Lots of decisions went into making that plan. Our reopening plan, we're just going to kind of hit this with some quick bullet points. This is more or less the important parts of the district reopening plan. There isn't a lot that's different in here. In fact, there's very little different in here. It's just a little bit that might be more appropriate for what's happening at Platteview Central. So first one here, screening your student at home. I will likely send you just a little quick 3-step flyer that you can use if you wish. It's not really complicated. Screen your kids at home means for fever, for cough, for headache, things of that nature, shortness of breath. But the fever above 100.4 is kind of the guidance that we have. You know, we always think back to the days of 98.6 degrees being a temperature, but for this, they're talking about a fever of 100.4 or above. But we ask that you screen at home. Please don't send anybody with a fever to school in this environment. That would be where we get into some dangerous situations where we possibly could have a student on campus that has the potential to spread a virus that we don't want spreading around school as best possible. So really take that seriously at home. Every morning, just ask your kids those questions, parents. Just ask those questions. Do you have a fever? You can take the temperature at home. You certainly can feel 100.4 fever. You likely can feel, but ask about the cough, ask about shortness of breath, ask about headache, things like that. If there's no symptoms, send them to school as normal. If there are symptoms, keep them home. Attendance, Mrs. Svoboda talked about it a little bit. It is required. We're taking attendance whether you're in person or online. So check in, be here on time. be online on time. For communication purposes, I don't know if this is that important, but you often hear the term e-learning and remote learning. E-learning is what we are going to now for those kids and families that are choosing to stay home and learn online. Remote learning would be when we go to something more permanently. So in the spring, we were remote learning. If we would have to stop school and stay home this fall for any period of time, if it's extended or defined, that's remote learning. So just a little difference in terms. They can mean the same thing, but when we talk about them, it's for those purposes. We will do the best we can in every scenario within the school to physically distance our kids from each other and our kids from staff and our staff from staff. Again, those are to the best of our abilities. The goal is always 6 feet or more. You think about what we're putting into classrooms. In some cases, we will put 21, 22 students into a classroom, and we will get 4.5, 5 feet between desks and chairs. The great news is we do have these acrylic shields that we have made a very large financial commitment to purchase those so that every student has a shield around their personal desk in every class. So despite the fact that in some classes we can't quite get to 6 feet, we do have a shield that will act as a barrier, which is a big deal for us in this situation. So we're excited about that. It gives us one more level of barrier between student and student or student and teacher. Masks, of course, that is the big divide in our society, and it's fine. Here's the deal with Platteview Central. Here's the deal with my philosophy. Everybody has an opinion on it, but for school purposes, I don't want anybody to have an opinion on it. Just let's go to school. We have mask requirements in some places. We allow students and staff to take them off in other places, and it's important that we stay in school. And so doing the best that you can in the environments that we are in is important. And again, having those shields in the classroom does allow us to give kids or the staff an opportunity to take a mask break. Okay, we don't want our staff to be fighting against kids who don't want to wear a mask. You know, for anybody that's worn a mask for an extended period of time, it can get uncomfortable, it can get hot. So there are opportunities for them to take the mask down. But here's what's important. When kids are working in close proximity to one another or to the teacher, we're going to ask to mask up. So there are places where it's not going to be, I don't want to mask up. We are going to ask to mask up in close proximity when kids are working, you know, within a few feet of one another. Even if the barrier is up, even if the acrylic shield is up, we may be asking to mask up. So that's our assurance to you that we'll do our best in that capacity so that we can give kids a break, give staff a break if they need it, but also protect one another if they're in close proximity. All right, washing hands, sanitizer, those things. We will have hand sanitizer in every classroom. It is available in the hallways, at the office, when you enter and exit the building, and of course, all of our restrooms are going to be with full service soap, warm water, and we ask that our kids are doing that in any transition period. So if they go to use the restroom, if they go to the water fountain, if they are passing from science class to math class, anytime they transition, they would come back into a classroom, just get the hand sanitizer if you left the restroom, of course wash before you leave. All of those things are going to give us the best chance to stay in school for the longest period of time. So it's probably something that we should be doing all the time anyway. We're certainly more aware of it today than we ever have been, but please wash those hands and sanitize anytime there is a transition that takes place. And again, a transition is just the leaving of the classroom to go somewhere else and possibly come back or go into another classroom. Our staff will do enhanced cleaning. Our classrooms from class period to class period will be clean. So when a group of students leaves math class at the end of first period, teacher will be masking up, we'll be putting on some goggles, we'll be spraying all the desks, we'll be wiping all of the desks down before a new group comes in. Okay, that could be if there's a class that comes in just 5 minutes after the previous class. Of course, if there's a planned period between them, we have a longer time to get that class period clean, or that classroom clean, but we'll do that. We will enhance our cleaning procedures. We have kind of a checklist of things that will be done in every classroom. And then in addition to that, at nighttime, we'll have enhanced cleaning procedures as well. So, our assurance again is that we'll really take care of the building and make sure we're hitting all those spots we need to keep kids in school. Mrs. Svoboda talked about the individual water bottles, the community fountains. We're shutting off the ones where you drink out of, and the touchless dispensers are available so you can fill water bottles during the school day. I talked about the shields, personal see-through shields right here. We have those for every student and staff. Secondary schools will use the block schedule already discussed, so you'll be in 90-minute periods, 4 periods per day plus lunch. Third period for you guys and 7th period for you guys. Those 2 days will be your lunch periods. And so you guys will eat at about, I don't even know what time you guys have the schedule, but it's in that noonish hour. We'll have signage throughout the building. Signage is, arrows to please socially distance, please wear a mask to enter. All of the typical COVID-related signs will be up throughout the school as reminders. Classroom doors will remain open. Each classroom has a lockable door. It will be locked, but in an open position so that we can increase airflow. You guys kind of understand how the airflow would work in a building. If we shut the doors, air is not circulating as well. When we open the doors, we do get a little bit better air movement throughout the school by having those doors open. But the key is for student safety as well. Those doors are locked, and we have magnets on the doors in kind of the closers, so that when we would need to lock a door quickly, if there was ever a purpose for it, we shut the door, pull the magnet, shut the door, and it's locked from the outside, and it happens within just a few seconds. So we can still keep our kids safe in case of any type of danger, which we of course hope stays away always. Athletics and extracurricular activities are still happening at Platteview Central, still happening at Platteview High School. We hope they stay on schedule. Our goal is to keep them on schedule. For us to do that, we have to, kind of follow some of these guidelines that we've been talking about washing hands and staying safe and social distancing and wearing masks in these areas we're talking about. But right now, we're going to have sports. That's the goal, is to have sports for our kids because they're such an important part of the learning process. In those practices, masks are not required. Now, some coaches may say, we're going to ask you to put a mock around your neck and pull it up when we're talking in a circle, about strategy or, whatever lessons are being taught at that time. But again, they're not going to be required because, again, in a sporting contest and practices and games, they may not be super comfortable to wear and to get the oxygen that you need to play the game. So that becomes kind of a coaching staff decision about how they're used and how they're worn, if they are worn. I don't know if I talked about it when we talked about the parking lot, but drop off, we ask you to drop, if you're driving your student, drop off after 7:45. Anywhere before that, we get kids in the building, and especially in this environment, they might be unsupervised, we don't have a lot of staff there until 7:30, they start, the staff is really rolling in, but they're getting to their classrooms and settling in. So 7:45 or after, the closer you can get to 8 o'clock and after, the better. 7:45 is not the target. 8 o'clock is the target, but we're saying if you have to drop off, 7:45 and after is acceptable. 8 o'clock should be the target. 8:10, not a good target. You'll be racing in and so forth. 3:25, we're done. You can pick up your students at that time. Buses are running accordingly at that time. I saw today, and I will share with you, if you're riding buses from Springfield or Westmont, you should be getting a phone call from the bus company, but if not, hopefully both happen. I'll be sharing with you information about the routes that are leaving from Westmont and Springfield and what time they are. For the rest of you, if you're out somewhere else, one of the lake communities, an acreage out in the country, you should be getting a call from your bus driver as to when your pickup times and drop-off times will be. All right. That's it. Pretty exciting. Okay. Do you guys have questions? questions about anything related to just day-to-day school, COVID planning, things of that nature, I can assure you that we're going to do the best that we can with the situation that we're in. Our district has put together a plan that has a little bit of flexibility. It's given parents a voice and a choice, and that's very important to us. We're confident in that plan, but we know the environment that we're in. Other schools are going back. I've already heard, that there's been a couple of schools that have had some cases already in those schools, and we will handle those accordingly. It's hopeful that we don't have any arrive. I don't know if that's, possible, but we're hoping we don't have any cases in school. If we do, we'll work with the county health department to decide our next steps. In every situation, they will come in and they will work with us to make decisions about contacts and tracing so that we know where the exposures are and how that looks for subsequent days. Our goal is to keep our doors open. That's the goal. Yes, sir.
Just a question about checking in the morning, because especially, once we get into the cold and flu season, kids get cold, and that's normal. If we're in doubt, is there like a number we can call and say, hey, here's what my child is experiencing? Is it safe to send them, or should I keep them home? It may be too early to ask that question. That may be, we'll go with it as it comes up.
Yeah, really good question. So the question is being asked of when we get later into the season, possibly cold and flu season, student has a cough at home, it's persistent, whatever. Is there someone that can be called, that the parents can call, maybe for some answers, some reassurance, just some guidance? And the answer is yes. Our school nurse is always going to be available. And our school nurse is going to be the kind of the liaison between our school and the health department. So questions definitely can be asked directly to our staff, our health staff, to see, maybe what you could do or should do, and there's probably going to be some questions about symptoms and things of that nature. If we ever do get a case in school, or I shouldn't say a case, a suspected case in school, there's a pretty good litany of questions that will be asked from the health department about that individual case, and that gets into, again, contacts and tracing and all of that. So we'll deal with that, but definitely here to support in that angle. There will be those instances where I don't know if this is a good idea or not. But I think the thing in this environment, we're not looking for any attendance awards this year. Okay, we're not looking for perfect attendance and all of that. We're working to stay in school. Okay, so if you choose to keep your kid home, the other option is we have an e-learning platform that is already taking place. We have kids that will be e-learning at home regularly. If you need to drop in on a once or twice basis because I haven't been feeling good, student they have had a persistent cough but no fever, whatever, and you know what, I'm just going to keep them home for a couple days. Go for it. They can check in with their teachers. There's going to be some e-learning opportunities that way as well. So good question. Did you have a question?
Yeah, Chris Christensen. Hey, the rotating schedule, block schedule is a little unclear to Lance and I, it can be muddy, if you will. So I'm assuming there'll be a transition period from the jump where a kid may not necessarily be considered tardy if they're the wrong class based on the wrong block.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question is about our block schedule. It is a little bit muddy, and it's not muddy for you, it's muddy for all of us because it's not a schedule that we've ever dealt with. So we're going block. There's 5 minutes between classes. Here's the kind of cool part. Normally it's 4 minutes. We've gone to 5. That's not a lot of extra time, but our rationale on that, we thought about it'd be nice to give these kids a 10-minute break between classes. The problem is, what are they going to do? They're going to socialize, they're going to be hanging out doing junior high things, and next thing you know, we have other issues. So it's going to be 5 minutes, and they're really going to move from one class to the next, maybe a quick restroom break, maybe fill their water bottle and go. Is there a grace period? Of course there is. We're going to let kids learn. The cool part, again, you're going to class, your teachers are all going to kind of work with you at the end of that period to say, anybody have questions where they're going next? And we're going to guide you there, we're going to get you there. I'm going to be in the hallway, Mrs. Sabota's going to be in the hallway, and we're going to make sure everybody gets to where they're going. In many cases, We've tried to bring as many classes back to Platteview Central as we can, like keyboarding and computer science is coming back to PC. So we're not gonna have as many transitions to the high school, but students will still need to go to high school for PE, choir, band, industrial technology, things of that nature. So we'll work to get kids there quickly and without tardies. Yeah, we're not gonna sting anybody with a tardy the first day because they got lost. But boy, the second day, we are gonna get you. All right, other questions? Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, if you're picking up, is there an area that I can spot my students? So when you come out of the circle and come right in front of Platteview Central, that's where you'll look for your student and pick them up. There's a big waiting area of concrete out there, and the kids should be in that area. That's for parents that are trying to time the pickup well, meaning I'm kind of showing up at 3:23, 3:24, I'm hitting that door and I'm not stopping, kids jumping in and we're going. That's the type of pickup we're talking about. If you're there 15 minutes early, go to the high school parking lot and wait. But yeah, you'll see it. It's just right in front of the school. There'll be 5, 6, 7 cars waiting at a time, and just jump in and out of that line as needed. Our traffic, a lot of schools, if you've been to the elementary, Springfield Elementary, Westmont Elementary, traffic backs up a little bit more there just because of how their parking lots look. This parking lot flow seems pretty good, and the other part of it is our kids will be in sports after that first week, so the amount of kids getting on buses and getting picked up is about half of what it normally is because they're going to practice. Many kids are going to practice, so there won't be a big traffic issue. Other questions? Good ones? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if a student gets sick, a child is sick at home, do they have to do the e-learning? If you can do the e-learning at home, do the e-learning. If you're sick, no, we're going to give you grace on that. We're not Mrs. Svoboda would make you do it, but I would not. Yeah, so you absolutely will give you a break on that if you're sick. Other questions? Good ones. Up in the back. So the first day of school, Tuesday of next week, will be 1A, schedule 1A. The second day of school will be scheduled 5A. Day 3 is 1B. Day 4 is 5B. Okay? And again, your student may come to school confused where they go. I will assure you with 100% we'll get them to class. Okay? They are not going to be lost in the hallway and not make it to class for 3 hours. Will not. Yeah, ma'am. Okay. That's a super question. So advisory is on your schedule. We kept it on there in case we ever go back to a normal schedule. We just kept it on there. There is no advisory right now. We just didn't feel that this was the right time to try to put it in there because it gave us one more transition and passing period. So right now, no advisory. Great question. You see it on your schedule in case we go to it at semester time or something you're already assigned. Yeah. Yes. Yep. First period, the first day of school, first period. When you arrive to school, this is something we haven't touched on. When you arrive to school, let's say you show up before 8 o'clock. 8th graders will go to the cafeteria where they will be spaced physically, 6 feet or more. If you're a 7th grader, you go to the steps or 7th grade locker area, and the same thing. You'll have kind of an assigned area where you will go, and that's where you're going to stay. So show up, again, close to 8 o'clock as possible, but you will go to your first period that first day. We'll get everybody going there. So know what your first period class is so we can help you get there. Okay, other questions? Yeah?
With COVID-19, are you guys going to do choir as well?
Yes, right? Choir is the question. Choir and band. The goal is to do that. I just talked to Mr. Layer tonight. Now, he's the band director, but he said the choir, they're working to meet in this auditorium And they're gonna try to space kids as best they can in the auditorium here. There may be mask requirements for part of that, and instrumental, they actually talk about using, some holes in masks that are kind of made for that, I guess, that, you know, everybody's marketed something during this process, if you haven't, you missed out. But, so I'm hopeful that band and choir can both take place, and will, again, it'll be with more spacing than normal because of the nature of choir. So, all right, lots of good questions. Yeah, Lisa?
Are they gonna be able to keep their backpacks so they don't have to use their lockers?
Lockers, question that definitely needs to be brought up. So students are assigned a locker, every student has one. There will not be periods where students will go to the lockers in mass. Okay, not in mass, in large numbers. So we will assign them, and students can use their locker for storage, first period or after. Teachers can say, hey, go put your lunch there, or go put your instrument there, or put your coat there, whatever it might be. They can use their locker for that purpose. But other than that, lockers are not going to be something they use in transition, so students can take their backpacks from class to class. You know, normally some of our teachers are more like, just keep the backpacks in your locker, bring your books, your supplies, your iPad, but we have to let them use their backpacks right now for transition. So lockers are going to be more of a storage location for stuff that you're going to drop off at the beginning of the day and pick up at the end of the day. And again, we aren't going to allow our students, we aren't going to allow 100 students to be at the locker at one time. Our teachers will kind of let them go out first period and put their stuff away in smaller chunks. Great question. Anything else? Okay, we need to go to sports meetings. I appreciate again everyone being here tonight. Thanks for your time and attentiveness. I look forward to seeing students next Tuesday morning. 8:10 a.m. is the first bell. Again, be on time. A little early that first day would be terrific. Football is meeting here. Stay here if you're football. Volleyball, front gym, out, take a left. Cross country, media center in the back hallway of the high school. Again, thanks for being here.
Go ahead.
Hey, if you're in the football game, you guys can just kind of come in and throw it out there. We have a little bit of paper.